Hello, and welcome to Cube Claws. No, I'm just joking. The Cube Ambassador. I thought of Cube Claws because it's Christmas coming up soon or the holidays, but it sounds like something out of one of those horror movies, 3B, Cube Claws, this big cube with claws, which in fact Kubernetes can feel like when you first start doing it. Anyways, no. So it's the Cube Ambassador. I just got my Santa hat on, that's all. Unfortunately, this hat's brought out like once a year, and I don't think it's been washed in I'm not going to think about that, but it's been a while. No, it doesn't smell bad. It's kind of, it was kind of, yeah. Anyways, I fixed it by just the old, muscle thing, and it's now working. And it fits around my head and it's not cracking anymore. But I think this year it's going to go to the wash. Okay. Anyway, so what are we talking about today? Well, we're obviously going to talk about something fantastic because the Cube Ambassador. And I'm going to talk today about ARGOCD, okay? ARGOCD, it's continuous delivery, a big part of GitOps, and it is fantastic. First of all, though, I wanted to mention a very important fact, not swag really. Well, I do have some swag stuff to say. This is the Veeam lighter jacket thingy. Very nice for workouts and whatnot. You can, so yeah, this one, I found this in my cupboard. So what happens is sometimes you get inundated by a swag avalanche, okay? It's winter here in Canada. We don't have mountains around Toronto, so we don't have to worry about avalanches. But, people out west or in Switzerland, in the Alps, like there's the Veeam legend. Well, he used to be a legend. Now he works for Veeam, Mildor. He goes in the mountains all the time in Switzerland. And there are avalanches, so he has to be really careful. But you can also have an avalanche in your home if you collect a lot of swag. Because what you tend to do, if you get a lot of it, you stick it in your closet, and then it kind of piles up. And then one day you open the closet, and So that's kind of what happened. And then I found this, right? And it had been washed, so it was wonderful. So swag avalanche, I survived, and here's my prize, right? Okay, I'm gonna have to sort through later, find the other stuff. Really good news this year. So every year we buy our kids the holiday calendars, right? So every day you get, you have to open a box, and there's a chocolate inside, okay? And we did this for years. And this year was a fantastic year because my older child said, "No, I'm too old for this." And I went, okay, because I'm not. And guess what? Yeah, so first time in many, many years, I've been actually opening these every day. And you go right to the end until Christmas, and you open and get the chocolates. The only problem is, though, in my memory from childhood, these were big, big chocolates. So either, like everything else in life, things have gone downhill and gotten worse, right? So the chocolates are now this size, or my mouth got bigger. Which is a possibility from all this talking, right? But nevertheless, it's still good. But I mean, like this chocolate, I can whoop, and it's gone. It's like a vitamin now, right? So it's not the same feeling as before. Nevertheless, it does bring back wonderful memories of when chocolates were bigger or my mouth was smaller. Okay, enough self-criticism for today. Let's talk about ARGOC. Oh, and first, before that, I want to talk about, run back here, I am still reviewing this book, fantastic book, Kubernetes for vSphere Administrators by who else? Cormac Hogan. Okay, I haven't finished. Okay, before Prague, I said I was going to read it all, and I have. The problem is, I'm old school. I go through a book like this if I purchased it, and I bring my little friend here, and I make notes. See, notes, old school. I just like to do that. And so far, I'm enjoying it. I'm more than halfway through. This is my bookmark. The beginning was fantastic. So I was surprised because it was not surprised in the sense, that I thought it was going to be bad. I just thought right from the beginning, they start brainwashing you VMware, you must buy VMware. Ooh, you're getting sleepy. No, it was really good. He talked about containers. He talked about Kubernetes, vanilla. He was comparing it. He used Rancher Desktop as an example. Ooh, okay. So, and then he goes in later to vSphere and Tanzu. So I really honest approach and a great review. So I enjoyed it because it's always good to review this stuff. Final review will be later when I finish the book, a bit later. Okay, so let's get on to our next subject, which is ARGOCD. Now, I found it extremely easy to install, okay? One of the things I like to do, just for fun always, is to try winging it with new software. So I just go in and try to install it. Okay, it's probably because I started with Windows, that's all you do is close your eyes, next, which explains why there's so much ransomware out there. But, and a lot of times, especially in the Kubernetes world, that won't work, okay? Either because the software is too complicated, the deployment's too complicated, or because documentation's lacking. And they forgot one major thing, which you're all supposed to know because you're all supposed to be geniuses. Well, that's not the case for ARGOCD. Documentation was fantastic. I head it up in a second. I mean, it's relatively simple. If you go to the ARGOCD site, basically create a namespace. You deploy the manifest, kubectl apply, and then in the namespace, and it's basically up and running. You can then we should download the clients. So there's a client. You can download it for Mac, Linux, Windows. So it's an alternative to using the web UI. And then you just expose the application. And I was lazy. I used Nodeport, but I probably go back and use my favorite English controller, Traffic. But yeah, and then it's up and running. So as far as the client's concerned, you can use Brew, or you can go to the GitHub page and download it. Okay, so what does ARGOCD do? Okay, as a very quick explanation, I've got a GitHub repository, okay, for my application, and I want that GitHub repository to basically be the source of all truth for my deployment in my Kubernetes cluster. And you can set this up. And ARGOCD basically is a system to do that. It creates a kind of controller, it is a controller on the local cluster, and then it watches. So once you've set up your application, it watches the cluster and watches your application and watches the GitHub, okay? If something changed in the GitHub, all right, in the manifest, it will change in your cluster. So really beautiful, automated, fantastic. You can have it either manual or auto. And whether you do manual or auto, there are different opinions. For production, maybe go with manual, which means that if you make a change, you manually sync it. You don't let it automatically sync, just in case. Again, not a super deep dive here. I'm just giving you a very big overview. But I've set it up, and I'm going to show it to you here. There we are. There's my ARGOCD. I'm logged in. And this is on a K3s, small 3-node cluster I've got. And it's Nginx, very simple. So it's a deployment. I've got some storage there. And it's been up for about 18 days, and the sync says okay. Okay, so what's wonderful about this? Let me go to my GitHub. Okay, GitHub's over here, and I've actually opened up. So there it is, my Nginx test, I call it, to be original. And let's open up the deployment. Okay, there's deployment. And why don't we try to edit that? So this is the manifest file in GitHub, okay? Far away, right? A universe far away in GitHub. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to edit. Okay, so there it is. And an easy edit to do in these cases is the replicas. I'm going to change from 1 to 3, okay? 1 to 3. I'm going to commit my changes. I'm not going to write anything here. Okay, so there it is. Now 3 replicas. Now, I'll go back to here, okay? And look, what has happened? I just made the change in GitHub, okay, in my manifest. Right away, the controller, which is watching GitHub, sees there's a problem. It's out of sync. Why is it out of sync? Because if we go into this little box here, when you can press these boxes, and we press it, we see that the deployment here, okay, deployment here, if we look carefully, we will see somewhere replicas 1. Okay, there's replica 1. All right, so this deployment has 1 replica. Now, why don't we go in to the actual CLI, and I already checked this, but I'll check it again for you. So we will get the deployment Nginx. There we go, there's 1. Okay, there's only 1 replica in this deployment. But in GitHub, I've already said that I want 3. Now, when I was talking about auto or not to auto, if this had been auto, the minute I committed that change in GitHub, boom, it would go down the pipeline and change that. But I didn't do that. Instead, I'm doing it manually. So what should we do? Okay, so we see it's out of sync. There's a sync button. I wonder what that does. Let's see, hands up, who knows? Let's press it, sync, okay? So there's all sorts of little, things here. There's dry run. Everyone who knows Kubernetes knows that's when it actually doesn't do the command, but shows you the possible results. Let's press synchronize, see what happens. Okay, press and synchronize. It was out of sync for a second. It's progressing. The health is progressing. Now it's healthy. Okay, so what are we gonna see now? Let's go into deployment. We'll go into deployment. And now we should see somewhere down there, I think you can do a search. Let's just see if we can do a search. That makes it like easy. For replicas, there it is. Look at that. Replicas 3. See? Replicas 3. And if you don't believe me, we can always do the command line test 3. Boom. So the beauty of this is that you can control from GitHub your clusters, your deployments and clusters, and applications. You can basically have one source of truth. Makes things much easier. You can install ARGOCD in one cluster and have it function on multiple clusters, okay? So it gets pretty entangled, or not, I would say complicated, but it gets much deeper later. This is a very small example. Let's go back now then to GitHub, okay? We'll go back to GitHub here. There's my cluster, and I will change this now. You've got to press the little pencil thingy, and let's change this now back to one replica, okay? We're going to press one replica. We're going to commit the changes. Now, if I was a really good developer, which I'm not, my coding skills are literally zero. Well, a little bit more than zero. I have bash scripting. But I would write something, I'm changing this for an important reason. Okay. Done that again. And what should we see very soon? And I can't remember what the timing is. I think you can adjust that timing. But what we should see soon enough, it's going to see that this is now at 1. Now, this is another interesting thing, though, okay? And this goes deeper into ARGOCD. There are settings for it to automatically delete, okay? But that is not on by default because deletion is always scary, okay? So that's a good thing. Let's do a refresh. Do a refresh here is actually better. I'm sorry. Refresh here. It's going to go and check GitHub, and boom, it's seen it's out of sync. I don't know what the exact timing is, like how many seconds it is until it actually does this, but I just forced it by doing the refresh. Okay. So it's out of sync. So now I'm going to sync it. All right, I'm going to sync it. And so there's pruning here. Now that's where you're going to start getting rid of stuff, okay? Now in this case, we're just changing the number of replicas, okay? So I think that's not a problem. If, however, I had deleted something from the cluster, so I said, okay, get rid of this pod or get rid of something, that's when you have this kind of safety mechanism, although you can change it and you can have it auto prune. There's a whole list of things you can do, and at every step of the way you can control it, so you're never gonna have a situation where, well, you shouldn't have a situation where it's doing stuff that you don't want it to. And if you do, then you didn't do your homework. We're back to one replica. Isn't that fantastic? Yes, it is. Okay, so that was our little demonstration of ARGOCD. By the way, Michael Cade has a great video, which I've got to find the link. You can Google it, though, of how to protect your continuous delivery. And I believe in that. He is using ARGOCD, and he's leveraging Kasten to protect your continuous delivery. So very important. Okay, on a final note, I know everyone's been watching the whole Twitter situation, which is just, it's pure comedy, and it's unfortunate because a really good platform didn't have to be, mutilated like this. I don't know what the reasons are, but there is Mastodon. And Mastodon, it's difficult to change. I'm part of a Mastodon server called mastodon.nu. It's in the Netherlands, okay? It's a Veeam Vanguard who set up, Maurice. And so that's an alternative for you. There's also Veeam employee Tim Smith, who's got his own too. He's somewhere in Ohio, I think on a farm. Imagine that, you could have your count on a farm, but not a data farm, but a real one with cows and horses and stuff. But it's an alternative. So at least there's an alternative. As far as the Twitter situation is concerned, we'll see what happens. Obviously, there had to be a change in that business. They were losing money. But there's one thing that changed. There's nothing just to go in there with, I think what happened was Elon got his dates mixed up. He thought it was Halloween, and he was trying to impersonate, what is that, Chainsaw Massacre, Texas, but people should have told him, no, it's Christmas coming, you're Santa Claus. So maybe he'll remember, and guess what? He'll give out gifts, right? I don't know what gifts he'll give all his money away and go back to building rockets. Maybe not. But if he doesn't, that's okay. We've got Mastodon. All right, have great holidays. I'm going to still try to post a video next week. Have a happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy whatever you're celebrating. Remember, good, peaceful times are excellent times. Be with family, friends. If you only have friends that are computers, hey, you're with them too, like me. No, I'm joking. But yeah, so have safe holidays, and hope to see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.